The crystalline spires of Outpost Nexus 7 pierced the violet sky of Kepler 186f like luminescent needles. Nathaniel Rivers guided his cargo freighter, the Stellar Whisper, toward the designated docking array, its hull still bearing scorch marks from a recent ion storm. After 6 months of solo runs between the outer colonies, he'd grown accustomed to the silence of deep space. Yet something about this routine stop felt different. Security Officer Vera Tlari watched the approaching vessel through multispectral sensors, her iridescent scales shifting from deep purple to a cautionary amber. In 15 cycles of service, she'd never encountered the energy signature now pulsing from the human vessel's cargo hold. The reading defied classification protocols. Incoming vessel, this is Nexus 7 Security, Vera transmitted, her translator converting her harmonic speech patterns into standard human English. You are directed to dock at Bay 6 for enhanced screening procedures. Nathaniel's fingers drummed against the worn control panel. Enhanced screening meant delays, paperwork, and questions he might not be able to answer. Acknowledged, Nexus 7. Though I should mention my manifest was pre-cleared at Proxima Station. Pre-clearance noted, Captain Rivers. However, our sensors indicate anomalous readings requiring verification. Vera's voice carried the distinctive musical undertone of her species, the Lasari, though her professional demeanor remained unwavering. The Stellar Whisper settled into its assigned berth with a series of pneumatic hisses. Nathaniel gathered his documentation tablets, straightened his worn leather jacket, and prepared to face whatever complications awaited. The airlock cycled, revealing Officer Tlari's impressive form, nearly 7 feet tall, with crystalline scaled skin that seemed to capture and reflect the ambient light. Captain Rivers, she greeted him, her multifaceted eyes scanning both his face and the data streaming across her neural interface. I am Security Officer Vera Tlari. Please explain the quantum variance emanating from your cargo hold. Nathaniel maintained his practiced calm, though his heart rate quickened. I'm carrying standard supplies for the Epsilon mining colony. Nothing exotic or restricted. Vera's scales rippled with skepticism. The energy signature suggests otherwise. It bears similarities to theoretical patterns described in ancient Lasari texts that were thought lost during the collapse. Look, Nathaniel said, stepping closer and lowering his voice, I'm just a cargo pilot trying to make an honest living. If there's something unusual about my ship, I'm as interested in knowing about it as you are. The security officer studied him for a long moment, her scales shifting through shades of blue that Nathaniel couldn't interpret. Finally, she made a decision that would alter both their destinies. Captain Rivers, I am invoking Section 7 of the Interstellar Commerce Act. Your vessel is temporarily impounded pending a full investigation. You can't do that. I have deadlines, contracts. I can and I must, Vera interrupted, her tone softening slightly. However, I am willing to conduct this investigation, unofficially. There are questions here that extend beyond standard protocol. Nathaniel considered his options. The energy signature was news to him, but he'd always sensed something different about his ship, ever since he'd won it in that mysterious game of chance on Europa. All right, Officer Tlari. Where do we start? First, we determine why your supposedly ordinary cargo vessel is emanating frequencies that haven't been detected since the height of my civilization, 10,000 years ago. As they made their way to the cargo hold, neither could have predicted how their professional curiosity would evolve into something far more complex. The mystery of the Stellar Whisper was about to pull them into an adventure that would challenge not only their understanding of the universe but also their preconceptions about each other's species. Vera's scales shifted to a deep indigo as her scanners mapped the cargo hold's interior. Fascinating. The signature appears to emanate from the ship itself, not its cargo. Captain Rivers, what do you know about quantum resonance patterns? Call me Nathaniel, he replied, watching her work with growing interest. And I know enough to understand that my ship shouldn't be generating any. The Stellar Whisper is a Class C transport vessel, nothing more. Perhaps that's what it appears to be, Vera mused, her crystalline fingers dancing across her scanner's interface. But appearances can be deceiving. These patterns, they're responding to your presence. To your neural activity. Nathaniel moved closer, drawn both by the mystery and by the way Vera's scales created mesmerizing patterns of light as she worked. Are you saying my ship is alive? Not alive in the biological sense, but aware? Connected? The ancient texts speak of technology that could form symbiotic bonds with its users. Technology that was lost when our quantum gates collapsed. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the professional barriers between them seemed to waver like heat distortion. Officer Tlari. Vera, what exactly are we dealing with here? Something that could rewrite our understanding of both our species' histories, she answered, her scales pulsing with excitement. And please, call me Vera. Vera's private office aboard Nexus 7 hummed with the gentle pulse of quantum processors as she and Nathaniel pored over the scanner data. 3 days had passed since their initial discovery, and the mystery of the Stellar Whisper had only deepened. There, Nathaniel said, pointing to a pattern in the holographic display. That frequency spike happens every time I enter the cargo hold. But look at the timestamp, it starts milliseconds before I cross the threshold. Vera's scales shifted to a contemplative azure as she leaned closer, her shoulder nearly touching his. The ship anticipates your presence. This level of quantum entanglement shouldn't be possible with current technology. Speaking of impossible things, Nathaniel pulled up another hologram, this one showing a star chart of recent ship disappearances. I've been mapping the locations of those missing vessels you mentioned. They form a pattern. The star chart rotated slowly, points of light marking each disappearance. Vera's eyes widened as the pattern became clear, the missing ships traced a perfect spiral, with Nexus 7 at its center. By the first light, she whispered, her scales flickering with concern. The spiral matches ancient Lasari navigation paths, routes that haven't been used since the quantum gate network collapsed. Nathaniel turned to face her, struck by how the holographic lights played across her crystalline features. Your people built a network of quantum gates? Like jump gates? Far more sophisticated, Vera explained, her voice taking on a professor's tone that Nathaniel found oddly endearing. The gates didn't just connect points in space, they connected consciousness itself. But the network was unstable. When it collapsed, we lost much of our advanced technology. And now something's reactivating these old paths? Nathaniel frowned. Why now? And what does my ship have to do with it? Before Vera could respond, her neural interface chimed with an urgent alert. Her scales paled to a stark white. Another ship just vanished. The Celestial Dreamer, a passenger liner. How many people aboard? Over 300. Vera's fingers flew across the holographic controls. But this is different. They managed to transmit a partial distress signal. The office's speakers crackled with static before a distorted voice cut through, quantum resonance, breaking down barriers. They're in our minds, the gates are, Lasari were right. The transmission ended in a burst of white noise. Nathaniel and Vera stared at each other, the implications hanging heavy in the air. They mentioned your people specifically, he said quietly. This goes beyond coincidence. Vera's scales had shifted to a deep crimson, a color Nathaniel hadn't seen before. The Stellar Whisper's energy signature, the disappearances, this message, they're all connected to the old network. But why is my ship involved? I won it in a game of chance on Europa from a stranger who. Nathaniel trailed off, realization dawning. Who had crystalline features. Not Lasari, but similar. Vera's breath caught. Describe them. Exactly. As Nathaniel detailed his memory of the mysterious stranger, Vera's scales began pulsing with an urgent pattern. That's impossible. You're describing a quantum sage, a member of our highest technological order. But they all vanished during the collapse. A soft chime interrupted them as Nathaniel's personal communicator activated unexpectedly. Both watched in stunned silence as symbols appeared on its screen, ancient Lasari script that shifted and flowed like liquid light. "It's a message," Vera translated, her voice barely a whisper. "It says, the resonance grows stronger. The gates seek their pilots. What was sundered must be rejoined." Nathaniel felt a familiar hum in his bones, the same sensation he experienced whenever he boarded the Stellar Whisper. "Your people's technology, it responds to consciousness, right? Could it be that humans have some natural ability that connects with it?" "Perhaps," Vera mused, her scales shifting to a thoughtful violet. "Human brains operate on quantum principles we don't fully understand. You might be naturally attuned to our old networks without realizing it." Their theories were interrupted by another alert, a cascade of disappearances, ships blinking out of existence along the spiral pattern. Whatever force was at work, it was accelerating. "We need to understand what's happening," Nathaniel said, standing. "And I think my ship, your people's technology, is the key." Vera rose as well, her impressive height making the office feel suddenly smaller. "What are you suggesting?" "You said the Stellar Whisper responds to my neural patterns. Let's use that. Let's follow the spiral and find out where these ships are going." "That's incredibly dangerous," Vera protested, though her scales betrayed her excitement with flashes of bright gold. "And completely against protocol." Nathaniel smiled. "Correct me if I'm wrong, but haven't we been operating outside protocol since the moment we met?" Their eyes met, and Vera felt her professional detachment continuing to erode. There was something about this human that challenged her carefully maintained boundaries, something that resonated with her in ways she couldn't explain. "We'll need supplies," she finally said. "And I'll have to file for emergency leave. Is that a yes?" Vera's scales rippled with a rainbow of colors. Someone needs to keep you from getting yourself killed while we investigate this mystery." "I wouldn't have it any other way," Nathaniel replied, trying to ignore how his pulse quickened when her scales shifted to that particular shade of rose gold. The Stellar Whisper drifted through the quantum wake of the latest disappearance, its sensors probing the residual energy patterns. In the cockpit, Nathaniel felt the familiar hum of the ship intensify, while beside him, Vera's scales flickered with rapid bursts of data as her neural interface processed the readings. "These energy signatures," Vera said, her crystalline fingers dancing across the holographic controls, "they're not just similar to our ancient quantum gates, they're exactly the same frequency." Nathaniel adjusted their course, following the spiral pattern deeper into unexplored space. Could someone have salvaged the old network? Reactivated it somehow? Impossible. The network wasn't just technology, it was a living system, integrated with Lasari consciousness. When it collapsed, it took generations for my people to recover. Vera's scales darkened with remembered pain. "We lost more than just gates. We lost part of ourselves." The ship's quantum sensors suddenly flared, causing both of them to wince. A massive energy surge rippled through space, distorting the very fabric of reality around them. The Stellar Whisper shuddered, its systems responding to something only it could sense. "Nathaniel," Vera called out, her voice tight with concern, "your neural patterns are synchronizing with the ship's quantum core. I've never seen anything like this." He could feel it, a deep resonance building within him, as if the ship was trying to communicate something vital. I think it wants to show us something." His hands moved across the controls instinctively, guided by an understanding he couldn't explain. The view screen filled with cascading patterns of light, ancient Lasari script interweaving with human brainwave patterns. Vera gasped, her scales blazing with recognition. "These are gate protocols, but they're adapted, evolved. The network didn't die during the collapse. It changed." "Changed how?" Nathaniel asked, fighting to maintain focus as the resonance grew stronger. It was waiting, Vera realized, her voice filled with wonder. Waiting for a species whose neural patterns could stabilize the quantum fluctuations. Waiting for humans. A sudden surge of energy pulsed through the ship. Nathaniel felt his consciousness expand, touching something vast and ancient. Through their neural link, Vera experienced it too, a glimpse of the truth behind the disappearances. The ships, she breathed, her scales shimmering with comprehension, they weren't taken. They were chosen. The network is rebuilding itself, using human consciousness as a bridge between realities. Nathaniel turned to her, struck by how the quantum energies made her crystalline form seem to glow from within. But why give me the ship? Why bring us together? Because neither species could do this alone, Vera explained, her professional distance forgotten in the face of this revelation. Lasari technology, human consciousness, we complete each other. The quantum sage who gave you the ship must have known. Their moment of understanding was interrupted by a massive gravitational distortion. Space itself seemed to fold, revealing a glimpse of something impossible, hundreds of ships, suspended in a quantum matrix, their crews in perfect stasis. They're all there, Nathaniel said in awe. Every ship that disappeared. But why keep them in stasis? Vera's scales pulsed with rapid calculations. They're not just in stasis. Their consciousness is being used to rebuild the network, creating new quantum pathways. But the process is unstable. Without proper guidance, the entire system could collapse again, taking thousands of lives with it. The Stellar Whispers systems surged again, responding to Nathaniel's growing connection to the quantum field. Warning alerts flashed across the console as reality began to warp around them. We're being pulled in, Vera announced, her scales shifting to emergency crimson. The network recognizes your compatibility. It wants to add us to the matrix. Nathaniel reached out, taking her crystalline hand in his. The contact sent shivers of quantum resonance through both of them. Then we don't fight it. We guide it. Together. Their eyes met, and in that moment, the barriers between their species seemed to dissolve. Vera's scales rippled with emotions she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years of rigid service to protocol. The risk is enormous, she warned, even as her fingers intertwined with his. If we fail, we'll join the others in stasis. If we succeed, we reunite two civilizations and save hundreds of lives, Nathaniel finished. Besides, I think this is what your quantum sage intended all along, bringing together the best of both our species. The quantum distortion intensified, reality bending around their small ship. As the Stellar Whisper was drawn into the matrix, Nathaniel and Vera held onto each other, their combined consciousness reaching out to touch the ancient network that had brought them together. The last thing they saw before the quantum field engulfed them was a cascade of colors across Vera's scales, not fear or uncertainty, but a perfect harmony of human determination and Lasari wisdom. Whatever waited for them within the quantum matrix, they would face it as one. Inside the quantum matrix, reality obeyed different rules. The Stellar Whisper floated in a sea of consciousness, surrounded by the suspended forms of countless ships. Streams of data and memory flowed like luminescent rivers through the void, connecting each vessel to the growing network. Nathaniel's consciousness expanded beyond his physical form, intertwined with both his ship and the ancient system. Beside him, Vera's crystalline form had become almost translucent, her scales reflecting the quantum energies that flowed around them. The network, she communicated directly through their shared consciousness, it's not just storing these people, it's learning from them. Every mind here contributes to its evolution. Through their connection, Nathaniel could feel the truth of her words. Each suspended crew member was sharing their experiences, their understanding, their very essence with the system. It's building a bridge, he realized. Not just between spaces, but between species. A surge of energy rippled through the matrix, carrying with it fragments of memory. They saw the quantum sages of ancient Lasari, their crystalline forms radiant with power, as they first built the gate network. They witnessed the moment of the collapse, not a failure as history recorded, but a deliberate hibernation, waiting for the right moment, the right combination of minds to awaken it properly. Your ship, Vera's thoughts merged with his. It was a key, designed to find someone compatible with both human and Lasari consciousness patterns. The game on Europa wasn't chance, you were chosen. Before Nathaniel could respond, the Matrix shuddered. Cracks appeared in the quantum field, threatening to destabilize the entire system. The suspended ships began to shift, their crews stirring in their stasis as the network struggled to maintain cohesion. Something's wrong, Vera's scales pulsed with alarm. The integration is happening too quickly. The human minds, they're overwhelming the system's original protocols. Through their shared connection, Nathaniel felt it too, the chaotic energy of human consciousness pushing against the structured patterns of Lasari technology. The network had sought human minds to add creativity and adaptability to its rigid structure, but the combination was proving volatile. We need to stabilize it, he projected, reaching for Vera both mentally and physically. Your understanding of the old protocols, my human intuition, we can create a template for proper integration. Their consciousness merged deeper, moving beyond simple communication into true synthesis. Vera's scales erupted in patterns never before seen in her species, reflecting the unprecedented union of their minds. Traditional boundaries between their species dissolved as they became something new, something that could bridge the gap between human chaos and Lasari order. Around them, the Matrix responded. The quantum fields began to realign, finding a new equilibrium based on their merged consciousness. But the process was taking its toll. Nathaniel could feel himself being pulled apart at the quantum level, while Vera's crystalline form began to fracture under the strain. Nathaniel, her thoughts reached him through waves of pain. If we complete this connection, we'll be forever changed. The person I am, the person you are, will become something else. He could feel her fear, not of the change itself, but of losing the self she had built over years of dedicated service to protocol and order. In return, he shared his own terror of the unknown, tempered by an unwavering certainty that whatever they might become together would be worth the risk. I trust you, he responded, pushing through the quantum turbulence to strengthen their connection. Since the moment we met, every protocol you broke, every rule you bent, it was leading us here. The Matrix convulsed again, more violently this time. The other ships began to drift, their crews showing signs of emerging from stasis. If the network collapsed now, thousands would be lost between realities. Vera's consciousness wrapped around his, her scales creating a dazzling display of light and emotion. Together then, she projected, her thoughts tinged with both determination and something deeper, something that transcended mere attraction or professional respect. They reached out as one being, their merged consciousness touching every part of the Matrix. Human intuition guided Lasari precision, creating new pathways through the quantum field. The network responded, recognizing in their union the perfect balance it had been seeking. Reality rippled around them as the Matrix began its final transformation. Through their shared awareness, they could feel every mind in stasis, every ship caught in the network. The quantum sage's original vision was becoming clear, not just a transportation system, but a bridge between civilizations, waiting for the right catalysts to make it stable. As the quantum energies reached their peak, Nathaniel and Vera clung to their connection, their individual consciousness submerged in something greater. The last barriers between them dissolved, leaving only the certainty that whatever emerged from this metamorphosis would face it together. The Matrix flared with blinding light, and for a moment, all of existence seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what would emerge from this unprecedented convergence of human and Lasari potential. The quantum matrix pulsed with newfound stability, its energies flowing in harmonious patterns that bridged the gap between order and chaos. As reality reasserted itself, Nathaniel and Vera emerged from their merged consciousness, forever changed but still fundamentally themselves. The stellar whisper hung suspended in a vast chamber of crystalline energy, surrounded by the fleet of once missing ships. Around them, the quantum gates had reformed into something new, structures that shimmered with both Lasari precision and human adaptability. Vera's scales rippled with opalescent light as she readjusted to her physical form. The network, she breathed, her voice carrying echoes of their shared experience, it's beautiful. Through the view screen, they watched as the other ships began to reactivate, their crews awakening from stasis. The quantum field now flowed smoothly around each vessel, no longer trying to absorb them but instead offering a stable connection to the reformed network. "We did it," Nathaniel said, his hand finding hers. The contact sent shivers of quantum resonance through both of them, a permanent reminder of their time merged in the Matrix. "But something tells me this is just the beginning." His words proved prophetic as their sensors detected new signals. Throughout the chamber, ancient Lasari technology was reactivating, responding to the stabilized network. Holographic displays sprang to life, revealing the true scope of what they had helped create. "It's a nexus," Vera explained, her scales shifting through patterns of wonder and excitement. "Not just a transportation network, but a bridge between our civilizations." The quantum sages didn't just want to connect spaces, they wanted to connect species. The stellar whisper's quantum core hummed in harmony with the new network, and through their residual connection, both Nathaniel and Vera could sense its purpose. The ship had been more than just a key, it was a prototype for a new kind of vessel, one that could harness the combined potential of human and Lasari technology. The disappearances, Nathaniel realized, they weren't random. The network was gathering the most compatible minds from both our species, preparing for this moment. Vera's neural interface chimed as data streamed in from the reactivated systems. The other crews, they're all reporting similar experiences. Different levels of quantum resonance, but every human Lasari pair on those ships formed some kind of connection during stasis. Through the view screen, they watched as the other vessels began to move, testing their integration with the network. Each ship now carried within it a seed of what Nathaniel and Vera had achieved, a bridge between species that would forever change both civilizations. "We should be receiving quite an interesting response from both our governments," Nathaniel mused, imagining the reports they would have to file. "I don't think there's a protocol for accidentally evolved two species while reactivating an ancient quantum network." Vera's scales shimmered with amusement, a sight that still captivated him. "I believe we left standard protocols behind the moment I decided not to report your ship's unusual energy signature." Her expression softened. "I've never been more grateful for breaking the rules." The quantum matrix around them continued to stabilize, creating new pathways between stars and minds. Through their lingering connection, they could sense the changes already beginning, human ships adapting to Lasari quantum technology, Lasari systems learning to accommodate human intuition and creativity. "What happens now?" Nathaniel asked, though the answer was already forming in both their minds. "Now," Vera replied, her scales dancing with possibilities, "we build something new. The network needs guides, people who understand both sides, who can help others navigate this convergence." She turned to face him fully. "The quantum sages knew this would happen. That's why they chose you, chose us." Nathaniel smiled, feeling the quantum resonance between them pulse with shared purpose. "Well, I did win this ship fair and square. Seems a shame not to put it to good use." "You didn't win it," Vera corrected, her scales flickering with affectionate exasperation. "You were chosen by beings who saw potential that transcended species. Just as I chose to trust my instincts about you, despite every regulation that said otherwise." The stellar whisper's systems hummed with renewed energy, responding to their shared intent. Around them, the quantum nexus waited to be explored, its pathways leading to possibilities neither of their species had imagined possible. "So," Nathaniel said, his fingers intertwining with her crystalline ones, "ready to break a few more protocols?" Vera's scales erupted in a dazzling display of colors that needed no translation. The network pulsed around them, ready to carry them into whatever future they would forge together. They had started as officer and pilot, drawn together by an ancient plan and their own choices, and emerged as something unprecedented, pioneers of a new era of human-Lasari cooperation. As the Stellar Whisper engaged its quantum drive, preparing to guide the fleet of recovered ships home, Nathaniel and Vera shared a look that contained universes of understanding. They had found each other across the vastness of space, defied the boundaries between their species, and emerged stronger together. Whatever challenges awaited them in this new age of quantum convergence, they would face them as they had faced everything else, together, in perfect resonance. The stars beckoned, and the network hummed with possibility, ready to carry them into a future where the boundaries between human and Lasari, between technology and consciousness, between duty and destiny, had dissolved into something greater than either civilization had dreamed possible.